I grew up in a town with one rule. After midnight, you don't speak outside. Not on your porch. Not in your car with the windows down. Not anywhere outside the walls of your home. Nobody wrote it down. Nobody formally explained it. You just knew. The way you know certain things without being told. I moved away at 22 and forgot all about it. Moved back 8 months ago and made the mistake of thinking it was just superstition, a childhood thing, harmless. Then my friend Marcus told me about Derek Oates, a man who moved here from out of town. Didn't know the rule. Stood on his porch talking loudly on his phone at 1 a.m. They found his shoes by the door the next day, his phone on the kitchen counter, his car in the driveway. Derek was gone. I've been following the rule ever since. But something tells me it already knows where I live. The first thing you need to know about Harwick is that it looks exactly like every other small town in the Pacific Northwest. 2 gas stations, a diner that's been under the same family ownership since 1987, a hardware store, a library that closes at 4 on Fridays. Population 2,300 on a good census year. The kind of place where people leave their cars unlocked and know their neighbors by first name and wave at strangers out of habit. I grew up here. My name is James. I'm 31 now. I moved back 8 months ago after a divorce that left me with very little and a strong need for somewhere familiar. My mother still lives here. My high school best friend Marcus Teal runs a hardware store his father left him. It felt like the right place to come back to. It felt safe. I had forgotten about the rule. Or maybe I had never really understood it when I was young. You don't question things when you grow up with them. You just absorb them as normal. The rule is simple. After midnight, you don't talk. Not outside. Not in your car with the windows down. Not on your porch. Not anywhere outside the walls of your own home. You could be outside after midnight. That part is fine. You just don't make noise. You don't speak. There are no signs about it. No town ordinance you can look up. Nobody sits you down and formally explains it. You just know. The way you know not to leave food out in bear country. The way you know certain things without being told directly. It passes from parents to children in small, careful ways. A hand on the shoulder when you're about to call out to a friend across the street at 1 a.m. A sharp look when you start talking to loudly walking home from a late movie. You learn without being taught. I have forgotten all of this living in the city for 8 years. My first week back, I ran into Marcus at the diner. We sat for 2 hours catching up. He hadn't changed much. Broader in the shoulders, maybe. A few lines around his eyes. But the same easy laugh. The same way of leaning back in his chair when something amused him. We made plans to have drinks at his place that Friday. His wife Donna was visiting her sister for the weekend. He said we could sit on the back porch the way we used to in high school, have a few beers, watch the tree line, like old times. Friday came. We sat on his porch until about 11:30. Easy conversation. Old stories. Nothing that needed to be examined too carefully. Around 11:45, Marcus stood up and collected the empty bottles. Said he was going to get another round from the kitchen. He came back out and handed me a beer. Then he sat down and glanced at his watch. And without any particular drama, he said, "Almost midnight. We should probably take this inside soon." I laughed, asked him if he still followed the rule. He looked at me for a moment, not like the question was funny, like the question was slightly concerning. He asked if I didn't. I told him I hadn't thought about it in years, that it was one of those childhood things, like not stepping on cracks. Harmless superstition. Marcus was quiet for a moment, looking out at the tree line beyond his back fence. Then he said it wasn't superstition. Said he knew one person who had decided it was superstition, a man named Derek Oates. Moved here from Portland about 4 years ago. Didn't grow up here. Didn't know the rule. stood on his front porch at 1 in the morning having a loud phone conversation. I asked what happened to Derek Oates. Marcus picked up his beer, took a slow drink, then said Derek didn't live here anymore. I asked what that meant exactly. He stood up and held the back door open, said we should go inside, said he would tell me more in there. We went inside. He locked the back door behind us. Both locks. Something I had never seen him do before. We sat at his kitchen table, and Marcus told me about the night Derek Oates stood on his porch talking loudly on the phone at 1:15 in the morning. He said 2 of Derek's neighbors had heard it, had turned their lights off immediately and moved away from their windows, had called each other the next morning to check in, the way people here do when something goes wrong. Derek had gone inside eventually, finished his call, gone to bed. In the morning, his front door was open. His car was in the driveway. His phone was on the kitchen counter. His shoes were by the door. Derek was gone. The police had investigated, found nothing. No signs of forced entry. No signs of a struggle. No evidence of where he had gone or why. Case was still technically open as far as Marcus knew. I sat with that for a moment. Then I asked Marcus the question I probably should have asked first. What exactly are we not supposed to be talking to? He looked at me for a long time. Then he said that was the thing. Nobody in Harwick knew. Not for certain. The rule had existed longer than anyone could remember. Longer than the oldest families had records for. He said some people thought it was something in the woods. Some people thought it was something older than the woods. He said, what everyone agreed on was this. Whatever it was drawn to voices. Human voices specifically. After midnight. Outside. In the dark. He said as long as you were quiet, it left you alone. I drove home that night in silence. Windows up. Radio off. I got inside. Locked the door. And then my phone rang. Unknown number. 1:07 a.m. I stared at it for a moment, then answered without thinking. Said hello. The line was silent for a moment. Then there was a sound, not a voice, not breathing, just a sound I had never heard before and cannot describe accurately. Low and resonant, like something very large shifting its weight. Very close to my front door. The call ended. I have not spoken outside after midnight since that night. I called Marcus the next morning, told him about the phone call, the unknown number, the sound on the other end. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked one question. Were you inside when you answered? I told him yes. Inside with the door locked. He let out a slow breath. Said good. Said being inside matters. Said the rule is specifically about outside. Inside your home, you're separated from it. Walls and doors and distance. It can hear you through a phone line, but it can't reach you through one. At least that's what he had always understood. I asked him how he knew all this. He said his father had told him, and his grandfather had told his father. Said it went back as far as anyone in his family could trace. I asked him if anyone had ever actually seen it. A long pause. Then he said there was one person. An older woman named Ruth Calloway, 81 years old, had lived in Harwick her entire life. Never left once, not even for a holiday. He said if anyone knew the full history of the rule, it was Ruth. Said she had always refused to talk about it to most people, but that she knew Marcus's family, had known his grandfather. Said if Marcus called ahead and vouched for me, she might agree to speak to me. He called her that afternoon. She agreed to see me the next day. Ruth Calloway lived in a small white house on the eastern edge of town, closest house to the tree line, which I found unsettling given everything I had learned. She answered the door before I knocked, like she had been watching from the window. Small woman, sharp eyes behind thick glasses. She looked at me for a moment, then stepped back and let me in. Her living room was full of books, every wall lined with shelves, papers stacked on the coffee table, The kind of room that belongs to someone who has spent a long time trying to understand something. We sat down. She poured tea without asking if I wanted any. Then she looked at me and said Marcus told her I had answered a phone call after midnight. I said yes. She nodded slowly, said I was lucky I had been inside, said the phone call meant it had located my voice, knew where I was, but that the walls had kept it from doing anything about it. I asked her what it was. She was quiet for a moment, looking at her tea. Then she said she didn't have a name for it, said nobody did, said it had been here before the town, before the people who first settled here. The indigenous people who had lived in this valley before Europeans arrived had known about it too, had their own rules about it, similar ones. Stay quiet after dark. Don't call out into the night. Don't answer if something calls back. She said the European settlers had learned quickly why those rules existed, said the first winter had been bad. People calling out to each other across the dark, voices carrying the cold air. She stopped there, didn't elaborate. I asked her what it wanted. She said she didn't think it wanted anything the way a person wants something. Said it was drawn to voices the way certain insects are drawn to light. Instinct, not intention. But then she paused and said there was one thing she had always wondered about. She said in 81 years of living closest to those woods, she had heard it twice. Both times it had sounded different. The first time it had sounded like something searching, moving through the dark without direction, following sound. The second time, she said it had sounded like something that already knew exactly where it was going. She looked at me over her glasses when she said that. I drove home from Ruth's house thinking about the phone call, the sound on the line, low and resonant, like something shifting its weight, like something that already knew where I was. That was 6 weeks ago. I've followed the rules since then. No talking outside after midnight. Windows closed. Radio off in the car. Everything quiet. 3 nights ago, I was woken at 1 a.m. by a sound outside my bedroom window. Not a voice, not movement, just a slow rhythmic sound against the outside wall, like something running its surface along the siding, moving from one end to the other, slowly, deliberately. I lay in my bed without moving, without making a sound, for a very long time. It stopped eventually. In the morning, I went outside and looked at the wall beneath my bedroom window. Long marks in the siding, parallel lines, deep enough to have cut through the paint. I called Marcus, described what I had found. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that hasn't left me since. He said that in all the years he had lived here, in all the stories his father and grandfather had told him, he had never heard of it coming that close to a house before. Not unless it was certain the person inside had something it wanted. I asked him what that meant. He said he didn't know for sure, but that I should consider whether staying in Harwick was still the right decision. I'm still here, for now, but I've started sleeping with something I never needed before I came back to this town. Every light in the house on, every window locked, and absolute silence after midnight. Last night, at 1:15, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I didn't answer it this time, but I could hear anyway. Through the phone, through the walls, outside in the dark, that same low resonant sound, closer than before,